गुरुवे नमः। श्री चैतन्य मनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपः कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकम्। नमो विष्णुपदाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदांत स्वामिने इति नामिने। नमस्ते सारस्वती देवी गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य सतारिणे। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे. So this chapter 29 is a summary of a previous 3-4 chapters where Narad Muni gave an example or an story to Prachina Bahari to explain about the real duty of life. And then he started, this chapter Prachina Bahari says, could you please explain the meaning of the story? And then Narad Muni started saying that, this Puranjana was Jiva, is a Jiva, and all those discussion we had. Right, he talks about the five life air, the Puranjini, the metal intelligence. Then we saw the analogy of a chariot and all those. And then Narad Muni explains about also bit in detail that the wandering of jivas in this metal world from life to life, from species to species, from different planets and so on, and where there is no end, there is no escape. Yeah. And Narad Muni then started explaining about the solution. Solution is that awakening of Krishna consciousness. Solution is that by hearing the Lord, we can actually see the Lord. And the only remedy is to surrender to Krishna. Yeah, so that's continues. Let us continue from text 41 today. So just let's read 2 or 3 translation a bit. So here he says, O best of kings, one who is faithful, who is always hearing the glories of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is always engaged in the culture of Krishna consciousness and in hearing of the Lord activity, very soon become eligible to see the Supreme Lord face to face. Yeah. And then in the previous verse, he says the real interest of the living entity is to get out of the nuisance that causes him to endure repeated birth and death. And the only remedy is to surrender unto Supreme Personality of Godhead through his representative. Basically taking a shelter of spiritual master. Yeah. Okay, let us see what he continues more. एतेरुपधृतो नित्यं जीवलोकस्वभावजय न करोति हरेर्नूनं कथामृतनिधौ रतिम्. Yes, Kishori Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Because the conditioned soul is always disturbed by the bodily necessities such as hunger and thirst, he has very little time to cultivate attachment to hearing the nectarian words of the Supreme Personality of Godhead.
Yeah. I think this is the only thing where people they work wholehearted, like to fulfill their desire, hunger and thirst of different things. Unless one is associated with devotees, he cannot cultivate Krishna consciousness. Yeah, as practicing in solace is quite difficult as well. So he says nirjana bhajana means cultivating Krishna consciousness in a solitary place is not possible for the neophyte, for he will be disturbed by the bodily necessities, eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. Being so disturbed, one cannot cultivate Krishna consciousness. We therefore see that devotees, known as Sahajiya, who make everything very easy, do not associate with the advanced devotees. Such persons, in the name of devotional activities, are addicted to all kinds of sinful activities. illicit sex, intoxication, gambling, and meat eating. There are many so-called devotees passing themselves off as devotees while engaging in these sinful activities. In other words, one who is influenced by sinful activity cannot be accepted as a person in Krishna consciousness. A person addicted to sinful life cannot develop Krishna consciousness as indicated in this verse. Yeah. Okay, let us see. So this is disturbances of this material world. Yeah, eating, sleeping, mating, and depending. We have to rise above it, and to rise above it, we'll have to take shelter of spiritual masters, advanced acharyas, and association of them. Okay, text 22 to 24. Okay. प्रजापते पते साक्षात् भगवान् गिरिशो मनु दक्षदया प्रजाधक्षा नैष्ठिका सनकादय मारीचिरत्रै अङ्गिरासौ पुलस्त्य पुलः कृतौ भृगुर्वैशिष्ठ इत्येते मदन्ता ब्रह्मवादिनः अद्यापि वाचस्पतस्य तपोविद्यासमाधिभिः पश्यन्तोऽपि न पश्यन्ति पश्यन्तां परमेश्वरम्. Rupesh Prabhu.
The most powerful Lord Brahma, the father of all progenitors, Lord Shiva, Manu, Daksha, and the other rulers of humankind, the four saintly first-class brahmacharis, headed by Sanaka and Sanatana, the great sages Marichi, Atri, Angira, Pulastya, Pulaha, Kratu, Brigu, and Vashishta, and my humble self, Narada, are all stalwart brahmanas who can speak authoritatively on Vedic literature. We are very powerful because of austerities, meditation, and education. Nonetheless, even after inquiring about the Supreme Personality of Godhead, whom we always see, we do not know perfectly about him.
See, these are the words of Narada Muni, right?
Wow.
Yeah, so just imagine what he's saying. Let's read it again. It's very powerful, isn't it? He's the most powerful Lord Brahma, the father of all progenitor, the Lord Shiva, the Manu, Daksha, and other rulers of mankind. The four saintly first-class brahmachari headed by Sanaka Sanatana, the great sages Marichi, Atri, Angira, Pulasya, Pulaha, Kratu, Bhrigu, and Vasishta, and my humble self Narada, are all stalwart brahmanas who can speak authoritatively on Vedic literature. These all, like there are Mahajanas as well, and I think Lord Shiva is a Mahajana, Manu is Mahajana, Narad Muni is Mahajana over there. So they can speak on the Vedic literature. And we are very powerful because of our austerity and meditation and education. Nonetheless, even after inquiring about the Supreme Personality of God at whom we always see. So they see Lord all the time, but we don't. And still they are saying that we do not know perfectly about him. So how can we know perfectly about him? And how can the people who claim that okay, I am God, or I can give you God, or we can become God? No. How is that possible, isn't it? It's really very, very powerful. This is basically the rarity of knowing the Lord. How rare it is to know the Lord. Yeah. Also, Lord Brahma says, Adurlabam Atma Bhakto, Vedesu Adurlabam Atma Bhakto. Sorry, it says Vedesu Durlabam Atma Bhakto. I forgot the words completely. It's lost now from mind. Yeah, Vedesu Durlabam Adurlabam Atma Bhakto. So his Krishna, Lord Brahma says that to know Krishna is is a kind of rare for through Vedas, but Adurlava is become easy for devotees to understand him. Yeah, that's what he says. Let's see purport. According to the foolish Darwinian theory of anthropologists, it is said that 40,000 years ago, Homo sapiens had not appeared on this planet because the process of evolution had not reached that point. However, the Vedic histories, the Puranas and Mahabharatas, relate human histories that extended millions and millions of years into the past. In the beginning of creation, there was a very intelligent personality, Lord Brahma, and from him emanated all the Manus and the Brahmacharis like Sanaka and Sanatana, as well as Lord Shiva, the great sages, and the Narada. All these personalities underwent great austerities and penances and thus become authorities in the Vedic knowledge. Perfect knowledge for human being as well as all living entities. It contained in the Vedas. All the above mentioned great personalities are not only powerful, being cognizant of the past, present, and future, but are also devotees. Still, in spite of their great education in knowledge, and despite their meeting the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Vishnu, they cannot actually understand the perfection of the living entity's relationship with Lord Vishnu. This means that these personalities are still limited as far as their knowledge of the unlimited is concerned. The conclusion is that simply by advancing one's knowledge, one cannot be accepted as an expert in understanding the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The Supreme Personality of Godhead can be understood not by advanced knowledge but by pure devotional service. As confirmed in Bhagavad Gita 1855, Bhaktya Mama Vijanati Yavan Yaschasmi Tattvataha. Unless one takes a pure transcendental devotional service, he cannot understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead in truth. Everyone has some imperfect ideas about the Lord. So-called scientists and philosophical speculators are unable to understand the Supreme Lord by virtue of their knowledge. Knowledge is not perfect unless one comes to the platform of devotional service. This is confirmed by the Vedic version. Athapi te deva padam bhojadvaya prasad leshang gruhita evahi janati tattvam bhagavan mahimno na chanya ekopi chiram vichinvan. The speculator, the Gyanis, go on speculating about the Supreme Personality of Godhead for many, many thousands, hundreds of thousands of years. But unless one is favored by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one cannot understand his supreme glories. All the great sages mentioned in this verse have their planets near Brahmaloka, the planets where Lord Brahma resides along with the four great sages Sanaka, Sanatana, Sanandana, Sanat Kumara. These sages reside in different stars known as the southern stars, which circle the pole star. The pole star called Dhruvaloka is the pivot of this universe, and all the planets move around this pole star. I think we'll discuss these things in Canto 5 very soon. All the stars are planets as far as we can see within this one universe. According to Western theory, all these stars are different suns. But according to Vedic information, there is only one sun within this universe. All the so-called stars are but different planets. Beside this universe, there are many millions of other universes, and each of them contains similar innumerable stars and planets. So how can we know? It's like Google Map. If you try to zoom in. So just imagine it's a full 14 planet system, right? And then, I mean, forget about that. Even if you think just about one of the country, there are so many in the country, there are so many states, there are so many different varieties of way of speaking, way of eating, and different things are different. So how much we can know, and just imagine about the whole universe, and that we are just trying to understand who is beyond this universe. Yeah. So there is one more beautiful verse. Let's try to find out. Uh, there's one more beautiful verse that's in Canto 14 by Lord Brahma. Let's see. Shri Ram Bhakti. Tatyana Kampansu Sukshmyano. No. I'm not able to recall the first word. A very beautiful verse by Lord Brahma. Even says anyone who says they know Krishna, they're all telling lies. Okay, anyway, I'll try to post that in a group. And also there is one more beautiful verse that's in 12th canto. 12, 13, 1. This is the last chapter of Bhagavatam, and the first verse it says, Sutta Goswami says, Yam Brahma Varuna Nendra Drudra Maruta Stuvanti Dibirsthaver Vedai Sanga Pada Kramopanishadair Gayanti Yam Shamaga Dhyana Avasthita Tadgatena Manasa Pashyanti Yam Yogina Yashantam Na Vidu Sura Asuragana Devaya Tasmai Namaha. Beautiful verse again it says, onto that personality whom Brahma, Varuna, Indra, Rudra, the Maruthas praise by chanting transcendental hymns and reciting the Vedas within all their corollaries, Padakramas, and Upanishads, to whom the chanters of the Samaveda always sing, whom the perfected yogis sees within their mixed minds after fixing themselves in trance and absorbing themselves within him, and whose limit can never be found by any demigod or demon. Unto that Supreme Personality of God that I offer my humble obeisance. So that personality, who is that personality? To whom Lord Brahma, Varuna, Indra, Rudra, Marutas, everyone is actually glorifying. Yeah, and they can never found. I mean, there is no limit. Limit is not found still as well. So, what to say of us understanding Krishna? Okay, so that's what Nalmani is saying. This rarity. Yeah, basically, he's trying to some other say that Prachinabhari, forget about these karma kanda stuffs. Come back to bhakti. Let's see what he says now. Sabda Brahmani Duspare Charanta Urvistare Mantra Lingir Vavachannam Bhajanto Na Vidu Param. Yes, Kushari Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Despite the cultivation of Vedic knowledge, which is unlimited, and the worship of different demigods by the symptoms of Vedic mantras, demigod worship doesn't help one to understand the supreme powerful personality of Godhead.
What a clear message, Banad Muni. Yeah. Mantra lingair vivachinnam bhajato na vidhuparam. Yeah. These are the words of Narada Muni. As stated in Bhagavad Gita 7:20, Kamas taistirita jnanam prabhadante anya devata tam niyamam asthaya prakriti niyata swaha. Those whose minds are distorted by material desires surrender unto demigod and follow the particular rules and regulations of worship according to their own natures. Most people are interested in worshipping demigods to acquire powers. Each demigod has a particular power. For instance, the demigod Indra, the king of heaven, has the power to shower rain on the surface of the globe to give sufficient vegetation to the earth. This demigod is described in the Vedas as Vajra Hasta Purandaraha. Indra rules the water supply with a thunderbolt in his hand. The thunderbolt itself is controlled by Indra. Similarly, other demigods like Agni, Varuna, Chandra, Surya have particular powers. All these demigods are worshipped in the Vedic hymns through a symbolic weapon. Therefore, it is said here, Mantra Lingair Vavachinnam. By such worship, karmis may obtain the benediction of material opulence in the form of animals, riches, beautiful wives, many followers, and so on. By such material opulence, however, one cannot understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Yeah, again clearly says no. So basically, early in the previous verses, he says the Gyanis. By Jnana, it's difficult to understand the Lord. Then karmas. I think we see a very, very beautiful pastimes in Vrindavan of Krishna Lila, where once what happened was Krishna with Gopas, they were in the forest and they felt hungry, and they found that there were some brahmanas, they were performing an yajna. So for performing yajna, they have got so many, so many paraphernalia and then also many stuffs for yajna. And Lord Krishna advised the Gopas that okay, you go to Brahmanas and say that Krishna and Balram are here and they are hungry. So please give something to feed them. And the Brahmana practically ignored the Gopas, the friend of Krishna. And they went back to Krishna and says, no, they didn't give us anything. In fact, they ignored us. And then in fact, they say that okay, you go because we haven't performed the yajna yet, so we cannot offer anything to you. And then Krishna said, okay, you just go to the wives of Brahmanas and say that Krishna is here and he is hungry. And when these are being spoken to the wives of the Brahmanas, they forget about yajna. Actually, they took whatever they have for prasad, they bring everything to Krishna. They didn't care about yajna. They didn't care about what their husband want to say. They just not only gave fruits or eatable items, they in fact they brought by themselves, and even they forget what's yajna is going on. So that it is that by jnana it's difficult to understand Krishna. And these verses by karma or karmis, they do not understand Krishna. So because karmis, they generally go for demigod worship, and by demigod worship we can't understand Krishna. It's basically by the jnanis and the karmis we do not know the Lord. Let's see what the next verse says. यदा यस्यां गृह्णाति भगवान् आत्मभावित Sajahati matim loke vede cha pranishtitam. Yeah, Rupesh Prabhu.
When a person is fully engaged in devotional service, he is favored by the Lord, who bestows his causeless mercy. At such a time, the awakened devotee gives up all material activities and ritualistic performances mentioned in the Vedas.
Yeah, let's read the multiple one. So who can know? Yeah, who can know? The Gyanis cannot know, the Karmis cannot know, the one who can know. In the previous verse, those who are in knowledge have been described as unable to appreciate the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Similarly, this verse indicates that those who are followers of the Vedic rituals, as well as those who are followers of fruit activities, are unable to see the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In these two verses, both the Karmis and Gyanis are described as unfit to understand Him. As described by the Sri Rupa Goswami, only when one is completely free from material speculation and fruit activities. Anya avilasa sunyam jnana karma dhyanavritam. Remember, we discussed this verse and we understood about are we practicing devotional service or not, Remember that point. Okay. Can one engage in pure devotional service without being polluted by material desires? The significant word Atma Bhavita indicates that the law is awakened in one's mind if one constantly thinks of Him. A pure devotee is always thinking of the lotus feet of the Lord. Savai mana Krishna padara vindayor vasham shivai kunta gunanu varnanam. A pure devotee cannot remain a moment without being absorbed in thoughts of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This constant thinking of the Lord is described in Bhagavad Gita as Satata Yuktanam, always engaging in the Lord's service. Bhajatam Priti Purvakam. This is devotional service in love and affection. Because the Supreme Personality of Godhead dictates the pure devotee from within, the devotee is saved from all material activities. Even the Vedic ritualistic ceremonies are considered material activities because by such activities one is simply elevated to other planetary systems. The residential abodes of the demigods. The Lord Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita 9:25, Yanti Deva Vrata Devan Pitran Yanti Pratavrata Bhutan Yanti Bhutejya Yanti Mad Yajinopi Maham. Those who worship the demigods will take birth among the demigods. Those who worship the ghosts and spirits will take birth among such beings. Those who worship ancestors go to the ancestors, and those who worship me will live with me. So Krishna is giving all the options. It's all to us to decide what we want. The word Atma Bhavita also indicates that a devotee is always engaged in preaching to deliver conditioned souls. It is said of the sixth Goswami, Nana Sastra Vicharanikai Nipunau Sad Dharma Santhapakau Lokanam Hitakarinam. A devotee of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is always thinking of how the fallen conditioned souls can be liberated. Is the Lokanam Hitakarno, how they can be liberated. How can the pure devotee think that how can they elevate the conditioned soul? How can the conditioned soul be delivered? The Supreme Personality of Godhead, influenced by the merciful devotees, attempt to deliver fallen souls, enlightens the people in general from within by his causeless mercy. If a devotee is blessed by another devotee, he becomes free from karma kanda and jnana kanda activities, as confirmed in Brahma Samhita. Oh, this is the verse I was quoting about it. Vedesu durlabam adurlabam atma bhakto. The Supreme Personality of Godhead cannot be realized through karma kanda and jnana kanda. Adurlabham Atma Bhaktau. The Lord is realized only by sincere devotee. This material world, the cosmic manifestation, is created by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and the living entities have come here to enjoy themselves. The Vedic instructions guide them according to different regulative principles, and intelligent people take advantage of these instructions. They thus enjoy material life without being disturbed. This is actually illusion, and to get out of this illusion by one's own endeavor is very difficult. The general populace is engaged in material activities, and when people are little advanced, they become attracted by the ritualistic ceremonies mentioned in the Vedas. However, when one is frustrated in the performance of these ritualistic ceremonies, he again comes to material activities. In this way, both the followers of the Vedic rituals and the followers of material activities are entangled in conditioned life. These people get the seed of devotional service only by goodwill of the Guru and Krishna. This is confirmed in Chaitanya Charitamrita, Guru Krishna Prasade Pai Bhakti Lata Bij. When one is engaged in devotional service, he is no longer attracted to material activities. When a man is covered by different designations, he cannot engage in devotional service. One has to become freed from such designative activities, sarvopadi vinirumuktam, and become pure in order to serve the Supreme Personality of Godhead through purified senses. Rishikena Rishikesha Shevanam Bhaktir Uchyate. So this is one verse, actually, whole verse. We discussed this as well. Sarvapadi Vinuramaktam Tatkena Pravetana Rishikena Rishikesha Shevanam Bhaktir Uchyate. The service of the Lord through purified senses is called Bhakti Yoga or devotional service. The sincere devotee is always helped by the Supreme Lord or Super Soul, who resides within the heart of every living entity, as Lord confirms in Bhagavad Gita. So can you relate? Can you relate that, how Prabhupada is relating Bhagavad Gita and Bhagavatam? There is no difference in one sense, It's both are actually taking us to higher stage. It's being said that we read Bhagavad Gita after reading Bhagavatam, we relish more. And then when we read Bhagavatam again, we relish it more. In a similar way, we read Chaitanya Charitamrita, come back to Bhagavatam, we relish more. When we read Bhagavatam and go back to Chaitanya Charitamrita, we relish more. So this all are actually connected because it's all are describing about the glories of the Lord. Krishna says, Tesam sadata yuktanam bhajatam pritipurvakam dadami buddhi yogam tam yena mamupayanti te. To those who are constantly devoted and worship me with love, I give them the understanding by which they can come to me. This is the stage of becoming free from the contamination of the material world. At such a time, a devotee makes friends with another devotee, and his engagement in material activities ceases completely. At that time, he attains the favor of the Lord and loses his faith in material civilization, which begins with Varnashrama Dharma. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu speaks clearly of one's becoming liberated from Varnashram Dharma, the most exalted system of human civilization. At such a time, one feels himself to be perpetually the servant of Lord Krishna, a position taken by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself. Naham vipro nacha narapatir napi vaishyo na shudro naham varni nacha ganapatir navano stho yatirva kintu prodhyan nikhila parmananda purnam tabder gopi bhartir padakamalyor dasa dasanudas. I am not a Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya or Shudra. I am not a Brahmachari, Grastha, Vanaprastha or Sannyasi. What am I? I am the eternal servant of the servant of the servant of the Lord Krishna. Through the disciplic succession, one can attain this conclusion, which is perfect elevation to the transcendental position or transcendental platform. Wow, beautiful purpose give, because bhakti comes and the devotee can know the Lord. Not by jnanas or karma we can understand the Lord. Yeah. And let us see one more verse. Oh, it's already. Is it a small part? But yeah, you can try to cover this one. तस्मात् कर्मसु बर्हिष्मन् अज्ञानाद् अर्थकाशिषु मार्तदृष्टुं कृता श्रोत्र स्पर्शा अस्पृष्टवस्तुतः वस्तुषु. Sorry.
Hare Krishna.
Yes, Prabhu.
My dear King Barhishman, you should never, out of ignorance, take to the Vedic rituals or to fruitive activity, which may be pleasing to hear about or which may appear to be the goal of self-interest. You should never take these to be the ultimate goal of life.
So right now he come back here saying that you should never take this as ultimate goal of life. So he explained three things, the whole 4 chapters with the story, and then here in the last few verses he explains about we cannot understand Krishna by jnana karma, but by bhakti we can do it. And now again he's saying that so the Vedic rituals you are so much attached to, Prachina Bhari, understand that you should never take these things as the ultimate goal of life. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Yam imam puspitam vacham pravadante avipashtita veda ratah partha nanyad asti vadina. Kamatmana sarva paragya janma karma phala pradam kriya vishesha bahulam bhogeshwara gatim prati. Men of small knowledge are very much attached to the flowery words of the Vedas, which recommended various fruit activities for elevation to heavenly planets, result good birth, power, and so forth. Being desirous of sense gratification and opulent life, they say that there is nothing more than this. Generally, people are very much attracted to the fruit activities sensed in the Vedic rituals. One may be very much attracted to being elevated to heavenly planets by performing great sacrifices, like those of King Barhishman. Sri Narada Muni wanted to stop King Barhishman from engaging in such fruitive activities. Therefore, he is now directly telling him, don't be interested in such temporary benefits. In modern civilization, people are very much interested in exploiting the resources of material nature through the methods of science. Indeed, this is considered advancement. This is not actually advancement, however, but is simply pleasing to hear. Although we are advancing according to such concocted method, we are forgetting our real purpose. Bhakti Vinod Thakur therefore says, Jada vidya yata mayaro vaibhava tomara bhajate badha. Material studies are the glare of Maya only, for they are an obstacle to spiritual progress. The temporary comforts of life experienced either on this planet or on the other planets are all taken as an illusory because they do not touch the real purpose of life. The real purpose of life is to go back home, back to Godhead. Ignorant of real purpose of life, people take to either gross materialistic activities or ritualistic activities. King Bharisman is herein requested not to be attached to such activities. In the Vedas, it is stated that the performance of sacrifice is the actual purpose of life. A section of Indian population known as the Arya Samajitas lay too much stress on the sacrificial portion of the Vedas. This verse indicates, however, that such sacrifices are to be taken as illusory. Actually, the aim of human life should be God realization or Krishna consciousness. The Vedic performances are, of course, very glittering and pleasing to hear about, but they do not serve the real purpose of life. Hare Krishna. Thank you very much for joining. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. We'll continue from text 48 next Monday.
Okay, thank you very much, Prabhus.
Hare
And
Krishna.
thank
Thank
you,
you.
Hare Krishna, and have a good
Hare
week.
Krishna.
See you soon.
Thank you, Prabhu.